Okay, 1 minute to go. Just let me introduce actually to Thomas and Ingo for the next session. I'm not sure if they actually need an introduction. In that case, just give me a little bit of an anecdote. Unfortunately, Thomas is part of our Stammtisch. And there's a Stammtisch NDA actually, which means what happens in the Stammtisch, it's like Las Vegas. Unfortunately, he violated the NDA. And the SAP community lost one of the most famous variable names ever. That's up to you. And Thomas, I'm still waiting actually for the ATT all-in-one download.
Oh.
You promised it for December last year?
Yeah, next December is coming, so looking forward for this.
Everybody also for an included subcode Java download for everything to work with ATT.
That's tough.
Yeah. And in the meantime, we have here development with ABAP Cloud in clean core style. I guess this means ATT, a lot of coding, a lot of examples. So I think the stage is yours. This is your audience. So enjoy it. And please, afterwards, no questions about VS Code.
All right. Thank you, Tobias, for the introduction. And yeah, good morning also from my side. Maybe you switch already the laptop. Yep. Throw this away. So our task is now to go a little bit more into detail what we saw this morning in the keynote by Boris. So how the theory really looks like when we're using this in our ABAP developments. That's now the goal. So we have no slides, only live demo. And yeah, that's the idea. So Ingo and myself, normally we are two product experts at the ABAP platform team. But today we're taking over the role of two developers of a small SAP partner. And what we are doing, we are developing add-ons for the S/4HANA. And this is what we're doing daily. And now the task is to show you how we switch over our standard classic development model towards ABAP Cloud. One very famous add-on that we've built in the past is an extension of the flight booking application of SAP. So that means what we have built is an evaluation app. With that app, you can evaluate your flights, for example, the service, how good was the meal, all these kind of things. This was developed, and you see this already in the back, how this works. So you're just selecting here a flight, and then you get all the lists of the passengers. So already started in the debugger. So that's the list, and then you can just double-click on one of the customers and can enter the evaluation. So how was the meal and things like that. So this is how this app works. So as said, very famous app used by a lot of customers. And you also see, yeah, everything was based on SAP GUI. So classical ALV-based applications, all via Dunbros, things like that. So really what we call a pure classic legacy application. And so now with the announcement of ABAP Cloud, and that is important to have a clean core system, we more and more get requests from our customers. Why not provide your application as well as a clean core compliant application by using ABAP Cloud? And that's exactly what we now try to do in the next 40 minutes to exactly migrate this old legacy application towards the new style using ABAP Cloud and being a clean core application. That's the idea. All right, so what are the basic concepts of ABAP Cloud? So you heard this already in the morning. It comes first of all with a, let's say, restricted set of the ABAP language. So not all ABAP statements are allowed in ABAP Cloud. So it's not that we say, okay, let's pick that and that statement. No, we really look on old statements, obsolete statements, so all these kind of things. We had this already in the past with integrated in the extended syntax check, but now it's really integrated in the syntax, directly in the syntax check, so you can not use these statements anymore when using ABAP Cloud. So that's point number 2. Much more important is that with ABAP Cloud, you can only use released APIs. But that's the basic concept. So now we have really a clear definition from SAP. What are the APIs that you have to use in your applications? That's more or less the idea. And this is also in ABAP Cloud. So we will see this in a few seconds in the demo. This is also governed by the syntax check. So there's no chance to use a not released API when you're developing with ABAP Cloud. That's also fact number 2. And number 3 is also a limited set of development objects you can use. So ABAP Cloud is Fiori only. You can only use RUB as the application programming model. So no DynPro, no Web DynPro, BSP or things like that are allowed when using ABAP Cloud. That's now the theory. A very crucial component in ABAP Cloud is a software component. So maybe when you're from a partner, you know this concept already. So you use this. Normally, customers in the past did not use software components, so they developed the whole content in the home software component, let's say. But now the software component gets much more important, because this is exactly the switch, how you can decide if you want to use the new ABAP Cloud model, so the restricted one that I mentioned a few minutes back, or if you still want to use the old classic style of ABAP. This you can specify on the software component. But it means you have several software components. In one, you can still do everything that you know from the past. And in the ABAP Cloud related software components, you can only use the ABAP Cloud as your programming style. What we have here is for the demo, it's now a brand new S/4HANA private cloud system 23 release. And the good thing is that we worked on some kind of a default setup, how such a system is set up. And this is already one of the systems that we have here. So things like that I already mentioned, the software component or the setup of the ABAP test cockpit, all these kind of things is already pre-configured on that system. And yeah, we will now have a look on that system, how this looks like. So Ingo, can you show something how this works with this software component maybe?
Yes, of course, I can do. So what you see here is that I created a so-called tier 1 package. And this tier 1 package has a type of software component set custom development. This set custom development is of type cloud development. You see that also that the ABAP default language version is ABAP for cloud development. That means only ABAP cloud compliant objects can be created in that package. Yeah. So for example, I do a short demo to exactly show that. Yeah, if I now create a class, for example, you can also create no report, for example, in that package. Yeah, I create a class. Yeah. So we have a small sample here, class 1. Oh, come on.
That's this one here on the shirt, right?
Yeah, that's exactly this one here on the shirt, the ABAP class runner. And if I now, for example, yeah, just try to declare data, my date, type S date, yeah, you directly see that, for example, this data element is not released to be used in ABAP Cloud development. Where's the error message here? Yeah, the use of this data element is not permitted. No, so it's not released, so we can't use it here. Another example, maybe just have a move statement. Yeah, move 1 to my date. This will also not work, yeah, because the move statement, of course, we see it here, is also not allowed in ABAP language version. And last but not least, if I try to select from the boot table, for example, yeah, that's also not valid not released. Yeah, so we are not allowed to exactly use this this table. Just maybe quickly help here. Yeah, so that you see that this statement here, the S-Flight, for example, yeah, this is not allowed, and you can't use the S-Flight table directly in this package. The background for that is if we have a look into the CVERS table, yeah, because here all the software components are maintained. There's documentation and outside there how to set up. Also, this 3-tier model creates software components in the system. And if we just scroll down here, we see that we have a software component, exactly this one, set custom development we are using here of type K. Yeah, and if we now just open the domain for that one, it's a domain value. Yeah, then you see this K is for cloud development only. Yeah, that's more or less the tier 1 layer. So only cloud compliant artifacts can be created in that package. Compared to the tier 1, we also will use that because later on we will create a wrapper inside that one. Yeah, this is of a standard type. Yeah, you are also allowed to change, of course, the ABAP language version directly in the package manager on the package here. And this is of a different software component that you are usually using at your system. That's the software component home, which allows you to completely do what you did in the last couple of years. Yeah, so that's the setup more or less.
Very good.
And now let's migrate our application to cloud compliant coding.
So this really means when I now develop in this software component, the syntax check and the development environment really takes care that I can only use these artifacts. So there's really no chance to, let's see, have some workarounds there. Say, maybe I still use this old statement. It's not possible. So you cannot activate the sources. That's the goal here. But you heard this also in this morning, it's really not that realistic, let's say, that for big customers who are having already a lot of legacy code in the system, or like partners, as we are now playing here, you definitely need some place here where your legacy coding runs. And therefore, you still have the possibility in private cloud systems to also develop in standard ABAP development, standard classic developments. So maybe, Ingo, you can also show this on this class, because we also see this on object level, that now, so how the syntax check is doing this is via the so-called language version. So when you're looking in the properties tab of a development object, you see here this ABAP language version. And this is now cloud development. And this is now exactly the indicator for the syntax check that now we have this strong checks. Only released APIs, only the ABAP language version for cloud development is used here. So that means also, let's assume you don't want to use this very strict model where you only want to use ABAP Cloud, so you more want to have a mixed mode, then you can also specify this on every development objects on your own. For sure, only for these development objects which are allowed in ABAP Cloud. So it makes no sense to switch the language version for a Dunpro or things like that. So this makes no sense. All right. We have other tools integrated to play around with the language version. So, for example, I often got the request, "Oh, Thomas, that's good, but how can I find these released APIs?" I know a lot of the old APIs, like, for example, Ingo had this put 000 table for the business partners, but how can I find the new APIs? And for that, we have integrated this in our search functions. So if you, for example, want to search an API, you notice one of the favorite dialogues that we have in ADT. And that's very simple. You can just specify that in that case, I only want to search for released APIs. Just that one here. And then you get only these APIs which have exactly this marker here, that these are the released APIs. So it's tightly, very naturally integrated in the development environment, in the search options. You saw these in the properties. So wherever you have this, the language version is already integrated here. Exactly. So you can also create your own ABAP repository trees, for example, in the ADT that you see, for example, in case you only want to see the release classes or release function modules or all these kind of things. Then everything is integrated in the development.
Nice feature also, maybe for those of you who are a little experienced in ADT, if you have a kind of search criteria and you search there from time to time always the same. There is now a functionality in the search dialog to directly create out of this search a new repository tree. For example, here, ABAP in use in cloud development, and you just can use that here and say finish, and then you directly get on the left-hand side a quick search, where you then see directly all the objects that I just searched for in ADT, in the Project Explorer, as a new ABAP repository tree, and you can rely on this kind of information. So I also have a couple of trees already configured. I also have a kind of configuration here on the custom development, for example, that I only want to see all the objects that are in this software component, for example. That's a nice feature in ADT to group to see quite fast some objects there in ADT. So I like that feature personally.
Perfect. So now we have the basic tool sets available in ADT, how to develop with the new ABAP Cloud programming model. Now we're coming a little bit back to our main task, because what we want to do is we want to migrate an existing legacy application towards the new model. That means we are starting with having all development objects in what we are calling the tier 3 layer. That means everything is standard ABAP. We also use Dunbros reports, if you have seen that. And now we want to migrate this. And how we want to do this is that, okay, we can now change this language version and go via the syntax check through every statement and fix this manually. But there is also another friend. We learned this already in the session by Lucas. The ABAP Test Cockpit is the standard tool for every kind of static code analysis in the ABAP. So we used it already for the S4 conversions. And now we are also using this as our main tool for the clean core conversions or transformations. That means the first task that you're typically doing is starting an ATC run with the special ATC variant on the system, so the so-called cloud readiness check, where exactly these things concerning ABAP Cloud are checked. So are you using only released APIs? Are you using statements which are not allowed in ABAP Cloud? All these kind of things. But the good thing is that you have this in a long list, so as an ATC finding that you see. And there you see already what are the typical issues. I mentioned it already. Syntax errors because of the restricted language scope, or you're using normally data elements which are not allowed for ABAP Cloud development, or you're directly selecting from SAP tables. So the typical things that you know from your developments from the past. Why? Because this was possible just looked into the system and you could use whatever is in the system, and this now changes. And so this is now more or less our task list, let's say. So we have to go now through every finding and fix this. But Ingo, to be honest, this looks like really like not so fun work, right? Do we have something better in the system to do this a little bit much quicker, let's say?
Yes, of course, we do. And the key word here is, and maybe while Thomas talked about all that, I just executed an ATC run. Maybe I also opened quick the ABAP Cloud Development ATC check variant. That's the basis for exactly this check. We now see the findings here, what Thomas explained here. Again, to repeat that, we have some statements that are not allowed anymore in ABAP language version 5. So if we just want to, or we want to migrate to, and also there are select statements which are not compliant to the ABAP Cloud world, because we have to use new OpenSQL syntax. And there are also then some other warnings about not to really use this kind of ABAP syntax here. And last but not least, we are also using some APIs, for example, the BUT00 table, business partner table, in our application to select the business partner data, of course, which is not compliant. And also we are using BAPI that we call here in the S-Flight model, which is also not allowed because it's not released. But coming back to the request now, with the help of ADT, we have so-called quick fixes inside there. So I just mark all the all the findings here and say recommended quick fixes. So execute the quick fixes in ADT, and now we get a list. The tool helps us to migrate from the old world to the new world. Removing obsolete statements, migrating from not allowed statements from the from the old world to the new world. For example, yeah, having the syntax checks here, yeah, maybe the move statement is not available anymore, as well as syntax errors, OpenSQL. So, for example, we also now try, and with the help of ADT, to migrate that to cloud compliant coding. There are also some SU variables, for example, that are not allowed here. And that will also be then migrated to new ABAP Cloud proven way. So let's do that. Now that's a summary of that what we see from the findings here. And we have exactly these two objects are affected in the wizard. And if I now press next, we also see a preview of that. So this will really be now changed from the left one to the right one with the help. So that we just migrate into ABAP compliant coding here. For example, yeah, we have the describe command here that will now be the inline expression here, and so on and so on. That's for this CC-imp include and the complete source include. Yeah, we have the SU-Name, for example, that is now used, or from the Sprachschlüssel, yeah, from the Langu, as well as yeah, the ABAP Boolean, quite famous one, and of course then transforming the old OpenSQL syntax into the new OpenSQL syntax. So that's what we see here. Now let's finish that one. Yeah, so execution was completed. We are now able to directly activate the source code, and then we see, for example, yeah, that the OpenSQL statement, let's go, yeah, was now transformed to new syntax, as well as all the commands that we had, yeah, move statements, for example, or whatever was also transformed into something that is now ABAP Cloud compliant. But if I now rerun the ATC check, we still see that some tasks are left. Not all will be transferred automatically in ADT. There are still some tasks left for the developer. Let's check that again and see what's open. So what we have here is that we are using a not released API. That's exactly selecting the business partner data, as well as using API that is also not released.
Well, this is really awesome. So now all these findings are fixed automatically.
Yes.
Wow, that's cool. I thought that you now take here 20 minutes to fix all these things, but it only took you 2 minutes, right? Oh, cool. So that also means you can also use these ADC checks, let's say, just to renovate your coding. So even if you say, oh, I want to change the old obsolete statements to new ones, you can also use this.
Yes.
Even independent if you're in a clean core project or whatever. So that's also very cool stuff. Okay, now comes the tough part, because we still have two things open. The first one, yeah, an API, which is not released. Okay, I think it's clear, because using directly the database tables, I think that's definitely not an API, let's say. What we did in the S/4HANA area, that for nearly most of the common database tables of the ERP systems, we have created a so-called successor object. So you heard already this name of the virtual data model in the morning. So this is now the new data model that you should use for your developments. Be it for read use cases, you can use the CDS views that we have released for that, or for write use cases, we have the business objects with the behavior definitions. And the good thing is, we were so nice to also add these successor objects as an, let's say, yeah, add-on, or like a notice to the existing objects, that whenever you know already, in the past, I need business partner data, and now you're just looking here, for example, on this ATC finding, and then you see already on the right-hand side that there is a successor object described. So in S/4HANA or in ABAP Cloud, you should use, or you have to use the iBusiness Partner CDS view. But it's not that we say, okay, now we have similar things now with CDS. No, when you're really looking on these CDS things, it's really a model that you can use. You have clear names, not these 4 characters, whatever. So we have clear names, we have association between them, so you can easily navigate from the business partner to other business objects, all these kind of things. So it gives you much more benefits to use these objects than just to say, now I have to use another database table. No, that's not the case. It's really, and I also been talking to ABAP developers who already use the new models, they're really saying it's really like a new world, right? Because now you really have a clear model, a business with clear names, let's say, that you can use here. You not only find this successor information when you're doing an ATC check. No, you can also, for example, when you open this table in the ADT, so this old table, then you also see in the properties what the successor object is there. So you can also, for example, if you have an S/4HANA system in place, you can very easily inspect this information here. When you click here on the API state, then you see exactly here, okay, this is a not released API, but there is a successor object listed here, and you can click on it, and then you're more or less done. That's the basic idea.
Okay, yeah, before we migrate to cloud now, or more or less, let's do that. Yeah. So what I want to now do is to really change the ABAP language version for my object, for my class that is still, of course, in the package of standard ABAP language version to the cloud one. So let's do that. Yeah. Change from standard ABAP to ABAP Cloud for development. And also what happens then is if I save that, you directly get again what we saw in the first demo, yeah, a syntax error. Yeah. So I can't even activate that class here. Yeah, it's not allowed because I'm using this cloud language version. Yeah, I'm not able to activate the source code. Yeah, I get also then a syntax check for this table, put 000, as well as for my BAPI call. Yeah, the other ATC finding that we had here. Yeah, so it's really a syntax check error in the ABAP class, in the source code. So let's fix that, right?
Yes, let's fix the first one. In the meantime, I'm thinking about, so quick fix we don't have for that, right?
No, we don't.
Why? Is it because it's complicated, or do you think? We heard in the morning there's AI coming for the ABAP, right? So maybe we should think about think about how we can use AI here, because we have this successor information in place. Yeah, maybe for next ABAPConf. Let's see. Okay, go ahead.
Oops, sorry. So let's see, where do I have my business partner? Here I have the business partner. And that's exactly now the statement, yeah, to migrate or to move from selecting from the boot 00 from the business partner. And you see now I just can use that one. I do not get a syntax error anymore, but I'm still not able to activate the source code because I still have the issue with my BAPI call.
All right.
So what do you do here?
Who experienced already, or who have some experience with the ABAP Cloud model already? Okay, few hands coming up. So maybe the first thing that you figured out, oh damn, in my part of the applications, I miss an API. The API is not available, it's not released. I know what's the API, but this release date is missing. So there are two options. Option one, you know some from SAP, like Ingo and myself. Or you're opening a request to SAP, so there's an official channel where you can request these APIs. And then we are working on it, and you will get these released APIs. To overcome this problem, we also thought, okay, in fact, there are a lot of APIs in addition in the system, APIs that you are using since years. For example, what is a good example for such an API? A BAPI. You know, you worked with BAPIs a lot in the past, and it's most unlikely that we will incompatibly change the behavior of a BAPI, because this will anyhow break a lot of ERP systems. So what we are now doing, oh, Ingo, you're too fast.
I'm too fast, okay. I'm preparing.
So maybe we're going back to the ATC result. What we did now, in addition to the released APIs, we also have some kind of a recommendation list for you, where all these APIs are listed that you can use in case when a real released API is not available. So in that, you find all the BAPIs that we are having here. And this is not part of the system because we want to keep this list very flexible so that you can very flexibly react on customer requests and put additional APIs into that list. So this list is more or less available on the GitHub repository. So there's a file which is stored there. You can look into that file. There's also in the meanwhile a small browser available that you can use. And this JSON file, or this file where all these, let's say, APIs, we call these API classic APIs. So they are APIs but not released. So we call these classic APIs. And this is exactly one of these things that we have here. So this BAPI here, it's in that file. And then you also see that you don't only get, let's say, an info message in the ATC. So you're still using this classic API. So that's different to the boot 000 because that's not recommended from us as a classic API. So the result is different. And then you also see here the recommendation that you now can create a so-called wrapper API that you can use then this wrapper API in your ABAP Cloud development models. Why is that needed? Because I mentioned at the beginning, you can only use released APIs. And when you want to do this, you need some kind of intermediate interface that you can access these classics APIs in your ABAP Cloud development model. And this is what we're calling a wrapper API. And now I think, Ingo, you need half an hour, I think, to create such a wrapper API because you have to develop a lot of. So I think I can go for a coffee break, right?
Yeah, no, not that fast. So actually, we have a kind of a generator, which generates just on the fly a proxy based on the API, the BAPI definition. Yeah, and that's what I want to do. So I already started that. That's what I prepared before, or while you are talking, is that I now have a transaction or a program, where I can just have the BAPI as an input parameter, so to say, and then giving him a target package where this artifact will be generated into it. That's now my tier 2, based on the presentation Boris also gave. We are now creating this wrappers into our tier 2 package because, prospectively, SAP will release that someday, so that we see, hey, this is now our wrapper package, so to say. And now I will exactly use this BAPI, generate a proxy for that, a proxy object into exactly this tier 2 package with exactly the wrapper class, the factory class, and the interface. So you can stay here. Let's do that. Hopefully that works. Now let's execute that generator here. And it will take 10 seconds to generate all the objects then into our tier 2 package. Perfect, wonderful. So if I now open my tier 2 package, if I refresh it here, you will see that now I just got 3 objects, the interface. That's what we also then want to use, of course, as a types on the tier 1 package later on. We'll see that in a sec. That's this one here. And quite important also to notice or to know is that if I now go into that interface, this interface is now so-called C1 release. Again, what also SAP is doing, you are now able to consume that on the tier 1 again, because that's cloud compliant. It's released then on the tier 2 layer later on to exactly use this interface. And of course, the factory class later on. That's what we see here in our class to call the BAPI, not directly, but over this factory class, over this proxy. That's what we see here. So this is the wrapper. This is the original. No, come on. That's what we see here, the same coding that I used in my normal class from my application, calling the function module here. And of course, what we also here is have now the factory class around that. So because the BAPI directly cannot be called, and also this factory class, if we go to the API state on the properties tab, is also C1 released. So with that, we are now able to consume that directly BAPI call over this factory class in our class, and then we are kind of cloud compliant. What I have to do is here still that I need to comment, of course, the BAPI call later on if we just call that method. So let's do that. Oops. No, just do not syntax error here. So let's call that BAPI here directly, activate the source code. And if I now go back to my class here, still, I get the syntax error. Now maybe I just resized it a little bit, then it's better to read. What I now will do is just comment that coding here, the old one, so to say, and use now the call to my wrapper class. That's exactly this one here. And then you see that this is exactly instantiating my factory class here and calling then the BAPI SBOOK get list, which is then indirectly calling again the BAPI. So with that, I'm now able to activate the source code. And of course, if I now restart my application, hopefully it will still work. And if I now set a breakpoint into my class, then we also see that the BAP call here, the wrapper call, I restart my application. Hopefully the breakpoint will hit. I do again the same data, entering the same data, yeah, that the evaluation, yeah, populating all the data, the BAPs get called, yeah, we just get the booking list from the S-Fly data model, storing the data in the database table. And then, of course, now able to, again, do our flight evaluations in the system as a user.
That's perfect. So I think you also see that you can do this exercise in such kind of a stepwise approach. So I think it's not necessary to do all these things that you have to do in order to transform this to ABAP Cloud in one step. So what we now did is just we focused on the ABAP language. We just focused on using released APIs, but we are still using, let's say, the old transaction. So that means you can also do this in a stepwise approach. But for sure, recommendation is not to use any more sub-GUI based transactions. So recommendation is to use Fiori and wrap in that. And this is now, let's say, the last step that we want to show how you can build such an UI based on the existing business logic here. And this is what Ingo now showing here. And there is also the approach of having a generator.
Yeah, just one thing, what I forgot to do is, of course, then I also want to migrate or move now my class that is now cloud compliant also into this cloud package directly into tier 1. So just do that, yeah, moving directly my class here to the tier 1 layer. That should now work, yeah. And then also we now see that all the stuff is now grouped, so to say, in this tier 1 layer. But now coming back to Thomas' words, yeah, that we now have our table, yeah, and now we want to replace our ILV based, not this one, just close that one, LV based application, of course, into a Fiori application. And for that, let's use the wrapper, the generator here for UI service, yeah, create a RAP BO directly. So we just go into a tier 1 package, of course. This will take also some seconds to generate that. I need to just put here some alias flight, flight evaluation. Unfortunately, it's not generating with a set namespace here. So that's why I have to do it manually. Maybe let's use a different name. And last but not least, the service binding. So all of you are a little bit aware of a Fiori development or RAP development. So we have the data model. We are selecting from our database table. Then we just generate a behavior definition with the implementation class, the behavior implementation, so to say, the service projection, so the service definition, yeah, and the service definition and the service binding on top of that, yeah. So let's execute that one. Draft table is not valid. Nicht sehen, Z-Flight, warum auf 5D draus? I already exist, then maybe let's do it differently. _5. _5. So let's try it again. That worked there. So just finishing this this generator. Again, this will take 10-15 seconds to generate all the artifacts in the system. And with that, we just get the service binding, yeah, a gateway service. We will activate or publish that, that service later on. And simply then using the data preview in ABAP in Eclipse, yeah, to launch exactly the data. Now we see, again, we have a full-blown application generated in seconds. Yeah, we can also then navigate into one entity here, say edit, yeah, and just say, hey, the flight rating. And of course, what we can do is then just use some metadata extension annotation to also make it a little bit more nicer. Yeah, so let's exactly do that. So if I go now to the core data services, metadata extensions, by simply using some annotations here. That's this one. No. Yeah, the rating UI annotation here. And with that, we have now the service rating. If I now activate that, using so-called data point in the annotation, if I refresh my application, we also see that we get a nice, oops, did not activate, no, try it again. Now it's activated. Refresh it here, and then we also see that we get a nice rendering here, and then we can use the rating directly in Fury to also then do the rating.
Cool. That means we're done, right?
We are completely done.
I think especially at the last step, you saw that you can do a lot of stuff of the RAP programming model with this generator, and then you can fine-tune your developments later on, like Ingo did with this annotation. So you don't have to start from scratch with defining each and every artifact. So you can use these generators here. Cool. So we're at the end. So this was, I think, a small look on what are the tasks that you have to do when you want to migrate your application towards ABAP Cloud. So switching the language version, using released APIs, using the new programming model with RAP, all these kind of things. For sure, we are also aware that in real life examples, it's, I think, a little bit more complex, but I think the steps are more or less exactly the same. So the basic steps that you have to do are the same. And you also see how you can survive a little bit the issue in case there is no released APIs, that you can create these wrapper APIs, and then you can still use this functionality wrapped in your ABAP Cloud developments. This is also a very essential point. And yeah, I think then we're open up for questions if you have questions.
I have already one question, just a second, from the YouTube chat channel from Paul Hardy. And he's actually asking about the ABAP wrapper you shown for the tier 2. It's more like a comment, I believe. What's actually the sense? Because they're still going to call in the end the old coding.
Sure. But you can use it in objects that are switched to ABAP Cloud developments, because if you're not using this wrapper, you will get a syntax error when you directly use that. That means when you want to use the syntax check as, let's say, some kind of a tool that helps you in adoption, you have to use this wrapper technology, because otherwise you cannot use this old BAPI, because then you will get a syntax error like Ingo showed. And with this generator in behind, I think it's in the meanwhile not that, let's say, complicated to create such a wrapper.
Okay, so we open up questions for the audience. So there's already one.
Greetings to Paul Hardy.
He's on the stream. You can do, hi, Paul.
Greetings to Australia, right?
Yeah.
So thank you for the presentation. It was very, very good. I have one question about the data dictionary objects. So we tried this out at a project, and we had a lot of problems with the data dictionary objects is very limited. We found that only sort of a handful of very commonly used. So it was like Bucres or VK org or something. They weren't available in the ABAP Cloud development object. So how do we overcome this? Because data dictionary bindings or data validation is one of the strengths of ABAP. So
so we get a lot of questions in that area, and also some customers start now to create their own data elements, and we say, no, stop this exercise. This makes no sense, because these are the basic reuse parts of an S4 system. And that means what we did now, we now, I think, released more than 25,000 data elements in the meanwhile. So it's, I think not all of them are published now, but in our developments, it's already done. And we will also provide SAP notes that you can install these release information also on the on-premise S/4HANA releases. So this will come in the next, let's say, days or weeks.
Okay, so it doesn't require upgrading the
No,
S/4HANA. Okay.
this will all come. So this release date that we've shown is an, let's say, own development object that we can ship via correction instructions to customers.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So just one question. So you said that we can very easily create the Fiori app, right? But then where we can deploy that app?
Where can we deploy?
I did not create a Fiori app here. I just created an OData service. We are using the so-called OData preview or Fiori preview in ADT,
Okay.
to exactly launch it. Basically, what you will do is just using Business Application Studio, Visual Studio Code, generate or create your Fiori app, and then of course deploy it back as a BSP or WAPA into the system, and then just have a Fiori app there. I just didn't create a Fiori app here. It's just a service around the app object around that.
But maybe we can also do some product announcement, let's say. What we have in the meantime is also the possibility to very easily navigate from the ABAP development environment. So Ingo started this preview, you can remember. And in the latest version that we have, there is also a second button here that you directly can open or directly start the deployment from here. That you can open the Business Application Studio directly from here, and all these kind of things is then pre-configured. So it's not that you have to start from scratch in the Business Application Studio. It's more like, we call it a bridge, that you can bridge over this task from here directly to the Business Application Studio. It's not available on-premise yet. We're working on it, also on a downport for that functionality. But if you're having a sub-BTP system with ABAP, you can already play around with that feature. And there's also rollout material already available. Maybe when you're later on in the talk from Frank Jens, you maybe see this in his presentation.
Okay, because we have in our company, we have on-premise system, but I also have a BTP instance where we have ABAP environment there. So I'm just thinking about a use case, like how I can use, maybe if I can shift some of the custom developments, which are basically the new requirements coming for custom developments. If I shift it to ABAP environment, so I can basically call the APIs from on-premise system.
So,
but then again, sometimes I question myself, like where I should deploy that Fiori app then, or how should I leverage?
Oh, that's then directly deployed on the BTP system.
Of course, you can deploy the Fiori app directly also then on the Steampunk system, the BTP ABAP environment.
But then for on-premise, we already have a separate Fiori launchpad. So then this will be like another Fiori launchpad for the users, right? So they will have.
If you want to get your business users on the Steampunk system, and you just deploy that Fiori app onto the Steampunk system, and you have an ABAP FLP on the Steampunk system, and the business user can access it from there. And of course, you then can call also over connectivity, then to an API to the on-premise system. That's possible. And vice versa.
I just want to say we have FioriConf for questions like this, because this is the next step. Actually, this is just writing the service, and then you actually have to add the user. That is where they stop actually, and then you have to go to the next level.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you changed the language version, there were 3 options. So it seems like the classic, the cloud. What's the third? Can you comment?
The third one is the so-called ABAP for the key user developer. So we also have a different set of APIs and a different set of language statements which can be used for key user developers.
Okay, well, you've mentioned those list of classic APIs. I dig through them real quick, and if because we are working a lot in an EWM system, I just quickly searched for any SCWM APIs and found nothing. Is there a roadmap how that could evolve? And
Do you mean classic APIs for that area
Yes.
or released APIs?
So, in addition to that, we've searched a bit in our system, and there were close to no already released APIs, just one or two. And as I heard in your talk, I was happy and thought, well, let's have a look if there's any classic API that we could cover and use, but there's none in there for the EWM.
Unfortunately, we are not an expert in that application area. So what you can definitely do is use the customer influence channel to also request the classic APIs, because we also have a concrete channel for the private cloud and on-premise things. And there you can also request, let's say, classic API, which is from a development point of view, much easier for us, because we just have to classify this as a classic API.
Okay.
That's possible.
Thank you for your session. It was very nice. So you showed us an example where you migrate a classical app into an ABAP Cloud Ready solution. So that means, correct me if I'm wrong, that means it works in a private S/4HANA private cloud and S/4HANA public cloud. So how about a partner who want to build a product, who want to work in Steampunk, which is a pure ABAP platform? So can we maintain a single app as in Steampunk as well as in S/4HANA public cloud after our migration? Or we have a best practice for that kind of.
If you rely on, of course, on ERP data, this will not work. But if you're only bound to these ABAP platform, then of course this will work. If you want to get the data from the ERP system and you just deploy the app on the Steampunk system, then of course you have to use APIs or calls here to the backend to exactly fetch this data. But you can't directly code it against that how I did it, because we are just having all the ERP data only on that system, on the S4 system here.
So bottom line, as a partner, we have to maintain two code repositories, one for private and public, one for the Steampunk based solution. Is that the right way to say it?
I think the recommendation is to think about to have a mixed mode, that you have your main application real as a SaaS offering on a Steampunk system, and only small adapters that you need for the private cloud on-premise systems. That's our recommendations. So maybe you can also go into the talk of Frank Jentsch in the afternoon. He will explain this a little bit in more detail, how such a migration from on-premise to Steampunk will look like.
Right. Now,
But one small remark. So you mentioned at the beginning that you can use this thing also for S/4HANA public cloud. That's not the case, because the wrapper functionality, this is not available in public cloud. So in public cloud, you can only use released APIs. This was only, let's say, the workaround that you can use in private cloud or on-premise developments.
Yeah, I have a question about something you showed in the very beginning about a select statement on business partner, where there was a handy error message, use XYZ instead. Is that relying on some metadata or is that an error message that is available for any table if there is a published CDS?
If there is a successor available, we will show that, yes.
So the syntax check analyzes the successor information and displays this in the syntax error message.
Okay, so if there's, let's say if I know the table where to look for, and I type the bad select statements, like you would do it in legacy code, it will show me if it is available CDS view.
Yeah, correct.
Additionally, there's also a repo available, where this information is stored. You can also then maybe query that repo. It's a JSON file, and you just can directly see that all the successor information for dedicated tables.
What can I look for to find that?
There is a note available. I can maybe just quickly show that in the ATC variant. No, who is this here?
Or maybe you come after, when we're finished, you come
okay.
to us and then we show how this repository looks like.
This is this GitHub repo here, sub ATC and so on. But maybe you can just double check that later.
So this one should be quite easy. The conversion report that you showed It looked like it was in set namespace, right?
You mean that
one
for the wrapper?
Yeah, for the wrapper.
This is let's say managed as an open source project. So
Yeah,
it's available.
Is there a node, or do you have a website for it, or somewhere
There
where
was
we
a
can find
blog
it?
post
There is rollout material available,
from
I guess.
Andre, I think.
Okay, thank you.